Sorry, didn't see you there. I was just relaxing in my boudoir, smoking a good pipe, and but since you're here and since it's Saturday, why not continue my tradition and review two movies for you? Put my pipe down. Excuse me. One last puff in. Love that tobacco. Anyway, let's get back to my tradition of reviewing two movies for you. I'm going to change things up a little bit, and I'm going to review two classic movies in my opinion. Okay, the first movie will be a comedy classic. Okay, it's something that came out in 1984 and kind of made. I don't know if this movie made him a star, because I think 48 Hours came before this one. So, but I think 48, the way I remember, I think 48 Hours actually came before this, actually. So, anyway, without further ado, the movie that I'm referring to, of course, is Beverly Hills Cop, starring Eddie Murphy. Okay, he plays Detective Axel Foley, and the basic premise of this story: he's a Detroit cop, detective in Detroit, and his good friend Mikey comes to visit him from Los Angeles, and he tells him how he has this great new job. Okay, and of course during they're hanging out at his apartment, they get jumped, and Axel Foley gets knocked unconscious, and Mikey gets murdered by the people that he works for. Okay, he gets murdered. Okay, so the next day Eddie Murphy or Axel Foley, when he wakes up, of course discovers his friend is dead, and his chief basically tells him, listen, this was a professional hit. Okay, the reason they didn't put a bullet in your head is because you're a cop. Okay, they didn't want to draw any more attention, so they didn't put a bullet in your head. But he said leave it alone. But of course, this is his best friend, so he can't leave it alone. So what he proposes, he tells his lieutenant, who tells him to not get involved. He decided to take some vacation time and go out to Los Angeles or Beverly Hills to investigate. And of course, Axel Foley is one of these wiseacre cops. And a good description of Axel Foley's character, because he's a smart ass, but he gets the job done. And a good comparison to what I just recently read about Axel Foley, what his character reminds you of. His character in this movie sort of reminds you of Bugs Bunny. And when I mean Bugs Bunny, I mean in that way that how Bugs Bunny gets into incidents and basically smooths his way out of it. And that's basically what Eddie Murphy does in this movie. He's a wiseacre cop who's always, the cops in Beverly Hills don't want him out there investigating. They're uptight, and he's trying to work around them to try to find clues to find out why his friend was murdered. And he meets another one of his childhood friends, Jenny, out there who actually works for the people that are responsible for the murder. And without spoiling it, it has a bunch of things to do with drugs. Okay, the whole reason why he was murdered. Okay, and it's fun to watch. And like I said, this movie originally I think was written for Sylvester Stallone. It was famously, I think he turned it down for some reason, and I forgot the exact reason, but they said he turned it down, so they got Eddie Murphy to star, and of course they changed it around because I think it was more serious, the original version of this, and they made it more comedy, more to fit Eddie Murphy's style of comedy. And this movie is a comedy classic because Eddie Murphy is absolutely great as Axel Foley. Basically, when he's not bamboozling the cops that are being assigned to watch over him when he's out in Beverly Hills, or he's irritating the bad guys at the same time. And of course, along for the ride, of course, is Judge Reinhold and what's the other guy's name? And what's the guy? I can't remember. His partner. What's the guy's name? Judge Reinhold and John Anson. They played detectives William Rosewood and John Taggart. Okay, they're the two cops that are really assigned to basically watch over him. And of course, he becomes kind of friends with them, even though John Astin's character, John Taggart, he's more of the serious one, and Judge Reinhold is more of a goofy type of guy. But they kind of aid him a little bit. But Eddie Murphy is the star of this movie. He is absolutely fantastic in this movie. But like I said, he's bamboozling the cops that are trying to stop him from investigating. They trying to get him to go back to Detroit, or where he's irritating the bad guys and stuff, and trying to find out exactly the reason why his friend was killed. He has personality to star. He just absolutely has charisma, and he is absolutely fantastic in this movie. Okay, and this is definitely a comedy classic. Okay, and I would definitely give this movie an 8 out of 10 because of Eddie Murphy's performance alone. With him, like I said, irritating the cops, irritating the bad guys, and just being a general pain in the ass, but he's getting the job done. Okay, and he's just one of his greatest characters ever, Axel Foley. And they made 2 sequels to this. Now the second movie was okay, not as good as this one. The third one, I think, was abysmal, but I don't think it got bad reviews. I don't think I even really saw all of the third movie, I think. But the second one, like I said, and anyway, this movie has a killer soundtrack also, which also helps. So definitely give this an 8 out of 10. Okay, Beverly Hills Cop. Okay, now the next movie that I'm reviewing will be another classic. And it's a classic for a lot of reasons, because the story is good, and kind of a tragedy happened as a result of the filming of it. But this movie is actually based on a graphic novel and a comic book, and this movie, of course, is Brandon Lee's In the Crow. Okay, this is one of my absolute favorite movies of all time. This is basically a story about I think he's a guitarist in a band, and him and his girlfriend are supposed to get married on, I think it's supposed to be Halloween night, and they get actually murdered by this vicious gang, and of course they get murdered, and then like a year later, a mysterious crow basically lands on Eric's grave and basically brings him back to life, and then he sets about getting back all the people that murdered him and his girlfriend. And Brandon Lee is absolutely fantastic in this movie. That his I would say screen charisma, that's the word I'm looking for, is absolutely fantastic in this movie. He is absolutely fantastic as the Crow, and the way he dispatches the bad guys in this movie is absolutely fantastic. And I think what's the actor's name? Michael Wincott. I think he's like the lead bad guy, the head bad guy, who has one of his great voices anyway, Michael Wincott. And he's the guy that basically is in charge of everything, and he's trying to figure out why his people are dying and stuff. And the confrontation he has with Brandon Lee is absolutely fantastic. I think there's 2 confrontations in this movie that he has with him. But anyway, it's just Brandon Lee was absolutely, like I said, screen charisma, absolutely fantastic. The way he set about, and I think he also befriends a young girl in this movie. And I thought, what's his name? Ernie Hudson plays like a cop on the beat too. That's trying to find out why all these bad guys are getting killed and stuff. And it's just a fantastic movie. The whole atmosphere of this movie, the tone of it, is just fantastic. And like I said, it's a shame that that Brandon Lee died. This was his last movie, because he has such personality and such screen charisma that you could tell that if he would have lived, he'd have blew up as a big, he'd have been probably even bigger star, because he's just so good in this. And I definitely give this an 8 out of 10 also as well. This is just a fantastic movie, and one that has to be seen. Now this also has a bunch of sequels to it that are not as good, and they also have there was a short-lived TV show, I think, that it was on TV, because I remember watching that, based on The Crow, and it's just a cult film, and it's an excellent film. And like I said, it's a shame what happened to Brandon Lee, but because he was absolutely fantastic as the Crow, Eric Drayden, which is another great name. Okay, and again, the other movie that I reviewed is Beverly Hills Cop. Again, Eddie Murphy, absolutely fantastic and perfect as Detective Axel Foley, who remind you, if you think about it, of Bugs Bunny. Okay, just in the way that he gets in situations and gets out of situations, and always turns up smiling. And so in that way, he's sort of like Bugs Bunny, in my opinion, but he's absolutely fantastic in this. And again, another guy with great screen presence, and this totally sells it. Okay, so again, so both movies 8 out of 10 for me. Okay, they're absolutely fantastic. Okay, so that'll be my review for these two movies. These are my two classics. Okay, for this review, and I'll go back to enjoying my pipe, and just want to say cheerio.